Greetings and salutations. This is Charlie. I am online. My audio is up and running. And if you're new to Zoom, welcome. This is Zoom web conferencing. We're trying something a little bit different tonight. So I apologize for any hiccups or anything that just stinks tonight. I just want to let you know a little bit more about Zoom. There are a whole bunch of options on here. So if you move around on your screen, if you're on a computer right now, you have the option to invite friends here. You have the option to share your screen. So, like for instance, I can share my screen right now and show you what I'm looking at here. Here are my notes right now. Here's Zoom. Here's an article I'll be talking about in a little bit from Andy Crouch. He's pretty smart. So we have a bunch of options here. And something else that I want to make you guys aware of is chat. So chat is one of the cool ways that we can stay connected with each other. So like, for instance, I can chat with everyone right here. So there's a to everyone chat option. You guys can chat with everyone else. And also there's the option to send private chat messages as well. So we're trying out this new software, and potentially this is even something where your small groups can meet. We just held a meeting about an hour ago with all of the small group leaders. So we invited them in and we did a web conference with Zoom, took questions, talked about the plan going forward now that we're sort of on lockdown at church and we're doing a lot of digital stuff instead of in-person meetings. But yeah, this is Zoom. So take a look around. You can do stuff like send reactions as well. So you can see there's a thumbs up. Now I'm clapping. That's sort of weird because it seems like I'm clapping for myself, which is bad. But anyway, guys, things are kind of a bummer right now. Things are kind of a bummer. And I don't know what you might be bummed about. Some of the things that I've heard from our students, spring sports are canceled right now. So all after school activities are closed, but I know some of our students were right in the middle of wrestling season when it got canceled. Basketball season, baseball is just about to start up and that got canceled. Soccer was just starting up and that got canceled. There was a Central Kitsap band concert that I was looking forward to that just got canceled last Thursday. There was a musical I was looking forward to going to at Clahowya. So yeah, shout out to Clara Gintz. I was looking forward to going to her musical on Saturday. Kelsey and I both were. That's canceled. Looks like prom is probably going to be canceled for seniors. Graduation is honestly a question mark. Potentially that gets postponed or is done differently. That's really scary. There's lots more. So if you're on chat right now, you can get on there and chat and let us know what you're bummed out about. It's okay to be bummed. It's okay to be frustrated about how this is playing out. Nothing wrong with it. And it'd be kind of weird if you weren't. Obviously, if you're an introvert at home, you might be super excited about social distancing. But if you live in a big family and you're trapped at home, you might not have enough social distance between you and your siblings. But anyway, I know one small thing I'm bummed out about, other than missing all of those student events. One thing I'm bummed out about is I'm a huge mountain biker and I'm a huge mountain bike fan. And for instance, the whole World Cup season for mountain biking has been postponed. So like last weekend, the first race was supposed to happen in Lusa, Portugal. All of the new teams, all of the stuff they've been working on all winter with these crazy new products and bikes, tires, suspension, all that stuff, and seeing who's fast this year and who isn't. That was supposed to happen last Sunday, and nothing happened. The track wasn't even open, so a bunch of riders showed up, rode around in the parking lot, and then flew home. That's a bummer. Another one is Kelsey and I are getting married on May 22nd, so we're wondering if this affects us. But, will people be able to fly out for our wedding? Are we going to have to postpone it? What happens? There's a lot of unknowns right now. So again, comment in the chat if there's something that you're really bummed out about. We want to hear. Other things that are worth mentioning. Uh, I studied economics in college, and the economy is really scary right now because a basic assumption of the modern economy is continued activity. So, for instance, I pay for meals with money that I get from my job, right? But then I pay the restaurant, and the restaurant pays their employees. The restaurant isn't getting any money from people like me, then they have to lay off employees. By the way, if even if restaurants are open and they're doing takeout orders, a lot of restaurants had to lay off um, or temporarily or permanently all of their staffers inside. So now those staffers aren't getting paid. So then they're having trouble paying rent. They're having trouble paying groceries, but also the restaurant isn't making money. Now, the restaurant probably took out a bunch of loans and debt to be open, and they were assuming that they would be getting income every month. So they'd be able to pay off the lease on their building. They'd be able to pay off loans that they took out to buy new kitchen equipment to launch a restaurant. Um, they were expecting money in so they can pay money out. So when they don't have that money, they can't pay the next person. And that person was expecting the money from the restaurant. The bank or the mortgage holder was expecting that money. And it just keeps going and going and going. And so it's really bad for the economy. That's a really big idea, and the economy seems pretty meaningless. But what I know for sure is that the people at the bottom are always the ones who get hosed. So if you have a cushion right now, not only can you wait out a bad economy, not only can you wait out, if you have money saved up, you can wait out not having an income. You can wait out not making a lot of money because you have money. And even crazier than that, you can actually get pretty rich off of a recession. So, like Boeing stock right now is down 60% from where it was a month ago. It's a great time to buy Boeing stock. So if you have a whole bunch of money saved up, you just a second. There we go. Brent's asking me if I'm zooming. I hope someone's watching this. But anyway, yeah, we're live. We're definitely live. Cool. We're going, so we're going to keep going. Anyway, I don't know what I was talking about. The economy. People at the bottom get hosed, and some people are going to do really well in the recession. And in Bremerton, Silverdale, we have a whole lot of people that work for the government that are going to keep getting paychecks. So we might not see it as much as other places, but it's just going to impact a whole bunch of people. And especially it's going to impact the people who have very little already. There's a bunch of homeless people living in the woods right now who normally hang out when it's cold during the day at libraries, at coffee shops, at restaurants. They get a chance to be indoors, and all of those places are closed right now. So they're extra isolated from people. There's a whole bunch of people that are being negatively affected. And something that was very cool is this past week, my fiance, Kelsey, has been helping out with a local business up in Paulsbo named Cafe Cocina. It's a coffee shop. And they put together a program to feed people in need, to feed families who normally get free or reduced lunch for their students. So I want to say 40% of the students in Kitsap County get free or reduced lunch, which means if school's not in session, they aren't at school to get their normal lunch. Now, the schools are still providing those lunches, but that assumes that parents are not working and are available to drive to school to pick up lunch and to drive back. So if students are working, if kids don't have access to cars, if there isn't someone else who can go pick up those lunches every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then the kids don't have access to their food. So they have to kind of go without, or they have to eat Cheez-Its all day instead of having a nutritious lunch. So Kelsey and the owner of this coffee shop, Eric, they put together very quickly, starting last Friday, a nonprofit organization. Well, it's a GoFundMe called NK Kids Lunch Brigade on Facebook. And looks like people aren't able to get in on this. Well, good news. There's a recording. So if you are watching this on a Facebook recording later because you weren't able to get into the Zoom meeting, I'm sorry. I'm getting text messages from people who can't see it, but it's tough. This is our first time trying it. I apologize. Anyway, guys, the point is Kelsey and Eric found an opportunity to help community members in need, and there's going to be a lot more of that. I think the economy is going to get a lot worse before it gets better, and we're going to see people who are hurting financially, who are going without, who are really in trouble. And I want you guys to have your eyes and ears open for people who are struggling and to be thinking creatively about how you can help them. So Kelsey and Eric did a food drive and collected a whole bunch of money, bought a whole bunch of food, yesterday packed 570 lunches for the next 4 days and then delivered those to homes this morning. But that's just one example. And be listening sharply, because people typically don't like to share when they're hurting, and they don't like to share when they need help. We don't tend to like getting help as humans. That's a big part of the sin condition, is we don't like admitting we can't handle things on our own. That hurts. So if you can be delicate about that, if you can be listening carefully, we recommend it. Again, be looking for ways to serve in your community. And one of the quick ways that you can serve is just being mindful of others' health with your decisions. So again, the reason we're doing this online instead of meeting in person is because the CDC, the Center for Disease Control in the United States, has asked all Americans to avoid groups of 10 or more, to minimize physical contact with others, to practice social distancing, which means more than 6 feet apart from each other, and to stay home if you're sick. So don't go out if you're sick. And just a reminder, and this might seem melodramatic, your decisions hold the power of life and death for others. It's pretty important. So before we jump into the lesson tonight, the last thing I want to ask is, what is it that you want? We're trying something different here. What do you want to see? What's important to you in our normal Wednesday night youth group time? Are games really important? Is worship really important? Are you seeing those underemphasized right now and you want to bring them back? Do you want to take this time to go in depth on a book reading or in prayer? What is it you want? You can comment in the group chat again. And just a reminder that my job as director of high school ministry here is to serve you and to enable you and equip you as you connect with Christ and your fellow believers in our high school group, but also as you go into your daily life, living in your families, with your school classmates, with your friends, on your teams. So what is it that you need during this time, spiritually, emotionally, in terms of friendship, connection, but also physically? So is there something we can be doing that we aren't? Let me know. You can share that in the comments. You can email me, and I'm just going to put my phone number right here. If you don't have it, my phone is 503-819-0944. And guys, you can text me or call me anytime. I promise I'll respond within 24 hours. I don't always respond immediately, but that's what's going on there. And just a reminder, as we change our behavior, there's a great article from Andy Crouch, who is a pastor that's a lot smarter than me. And the article, which you saw earlier in this broadcast, was called Love in the Time of Coronavirus. And the big thing he pointed out is that as we change our behaviors, as we go to online webcasts, as we move away from physical gatherings, love is the reason we're changing our behavior. And one of the basic axioms of Christian life is that the strong, the healthy, those who aren't particularly affected by coronavirus, those who may be carriers, they have to look out for and consider the weak. So we make the choices we make, not just to minimize our own risk, those of our families, but to protect others from risk. Specifically in this time, the elderly. So those over the age of 60, which includes both of my parents, they're at very, very high risk. And as Brent pointed out in our meeting on Tuesday, in places like Italy, where they did not take big precautions, they're running out of places to put the bodies. There is so much sickness and death overwhelming the hospital systems in northern Italy right now that they're running out of space in their morgues, in the coolers that they store recently deceased people in. They're running out of beds in their hospitals. They're having to make really hard decisions between helping younger people, helping older people, because they don't have enough respirators and intubators to serve everyone. That's scary. And if our sacrifices and our decisions can prevent those sorts of circumstances from descending on our friends and families, our communities, and even for strangers, guys, that's really important. And that's a mandate from God that we look out for those at risk and those who are weak. And also, we should say that we're prepared for trouble, that we're not anxious about trouble as it comes. We're not dreading the future. We're not worrying about tomorrow, but we are preparing for it. We're making wise decisions. And guys, there is the promise of challenge, of disease, of sickness, of death, and of suffering in this life. There's the promise that those things are coming, and we prepare for them. We make wise decisions to minimize suffering, sickness, death. But we don't pretend like we can avoid it entirely, like we can worry it away. We don't chew in our hearts over and over again on this despair and this hopelessness and this anxiety. We make wise decisions. And above all, because we're called not to be afraid. The number one command in the Bible is not to be afraid. So we have certainty in this Christian life. And we don't need to fear the things that happen in this life because they can't hurt us eternally, and our eternal destination is secure. That is what Christ has secured for us in his death, but also in his resurrection on the cross, and that's good news. So the plan right now for youth group is that we're going to be having a lesson every week. We're going to be going over the news and updating you on what's going on in the life of the church and what you can expect going forward. But right now, we're not going to be doing worship on Wednesday night. So I'm not about to turn and show you someone with a guitar who's about to sing and lead us in worship. And we're not doing games tonight right now. And the biggest piece of the puzzle that we're trying to figure out is how to allow you guys, how to have our students engaged and participating, so it's not just me talking. So that could look like the Zoom chat, which I mentioned already. You guys can be chatting with each other. You guys can be sharing prayer requests, things you're bummed about, whether it's your baseball team getting canceled or your student play. But sharing those things in Zoom chat, maybe Zoom is the way that you want to have your small group time every week. That's something that we've been talking about. Maybe after a brief message on Wednesday nights, we can move to Zoom small groups. But we're open to ideas on that. And the one that I always want to take advantage of first is that we already have a pretty gosh darn good tool to stay connected to our friends. So guys, we already have access to text. We have access to Facebook. We have access to Instagram. And there's another tool that's built into this thing that you guys might not be aware of. I know a lot of people under the age of 30 aren't aware that these smartphones can do it, but you can actually make a phone call to people and you can hear their voices through the phone. So you can talk into the microphone, you can hear their voices, and you can have, it's a two-way sort of chat. So if you can think of a text message, it's like that, but with an actual voice. It's pretty cool. So that's one way you can stay connected. Because we want to stay connected as a church, and we're the body of Christ, so we don't want to be isolated as we're practicing social distancing. So that's the plan for right now. What's new? The mission trip is still on right now. It's in July, and we are still going ahead with that. The mission training this weekend is canceled. So we're trying to figure out what the plan is and how we can recreate that via some sort of digital medium. But the mission training is still happening. Guys, you can tune in Sunday mornings at 9:15 for our worship service. And part of the reason we're not having a worship experience on Wednesday nights is because youth group isn't church. We don't actually need to provide that because we already provide that as a church on Sunday mornings. And I hope you're tuning in Sunday mornings at 9:15 for an incredible musical worship experience that's led by a pretty big team of incredible Christ-like people. So obviously, we'll have weekly sermons there as well, but tune into that. And we'll be meeting right here again next week via Zoom at 6:30 p.m. So I'm just going to speak really briefly about King David. So that's the series we've been going through. And if we were to move on to the next lesson on our to-do list is going through 2 Samuel and specifically the story of David and Bathsheba, when he sleeps with another man's wife and has her husband killed because she gets pregnant. It's a really dark story, and it speaks to a whole bunch of truths about marriage, divorce, infidelity, faithfulness. We're not talking about that this week. The whole reason we're going through this David series right now is in conjunction with the What's Your Story winter retreat we just did. I believe that each of you students is a person with hopes and dreams, challenges that you face, gifts that God has given you, and you have a purpose, a calling in life, and that the decisions you make matter, that your friends matter, that it's not an accident that you are where you are, but God is calling you to be his signpost, his light, his lamp, his city on top of a hill in your life, to be his hands and feet and his voice with your friends and with your family. And so we're studying David the person, King David, and the stories from his life and how they reflect on our lives. And guys, I can't think of a better series to be going through right now when coronavirus hits, because David has been in our situation. We've heard story after story over the last 4 weeks of how David was isolated, he was alone, he was hiding, and he was waiting out danger. But he trusted in the Lord through each of those challenges. So first, he ran away and hid from Saul, the current king, for years of his life as Saul was trying to kill him. David was anointed to be king. Saul hunted after him to kill him. And David spent years and years in hiding. But after that, after Saul died and David became king, this happens again when his very own son tries to take the throne from David and tries to hunt down and kill him. And again, we haven't gotten into this in 2 Samuel, but again, David has to go into hiding as his own son is trying to kill him. So there's story after story of David on the run, hiding in caves, wondering what on earth is happening, and having his whole world torn apart and turned upside down. But David has patience and faith through each of those challenges. Now, we get so many of the Psalms from David, and one of them, which is dark and feels almost hopeless, is Psalm 51, which we'll get to next week when we're talking about David and Bathsheba. But one of the ones that we return to often, one of the Psalms that we read in our church staff meeting on Tuesday, is Psalm 23. And I'm going to put that on the screen right now. This is a Psalm of David, and this is something that he speaks to us now in this chapter in our lives, that he spoke as he was going through crazy things, as he was hiding for his life. Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me in all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Guys, David had confidence even through the trials of this world because he had confidence in a God who is bigger than what was happening around him. God is bigger than Saul. God is bigger than David's son Absalom hunting after him. God is bigger than coronavirus, and God has a plan, and he's using each of these crazy trials that seem pointless and horrible. He even uses death itself. Through the death of his son, Jesus Christ, he uses each of these horrible things that sin has brought to the world. And we have faith that we can see in Christ's triumph on the cross and his rebirth, right? His new life, his resurrection. We have faith through all of those things, and we can trust in God. Guys, even when things are confusing and we can't believe how God has anything to do with this, we can pray the words of Psalm 23 that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. So, guys, that is good news for us. And I hope we can reflect on Psalm 23. My challenge to you this week, read some of 1st and 2nd Samuel. Read David's stories. See how this man after God's own heart responds in times of trouble, and see how just totally crazy his faith and hope and love and patience are. They're otherworldly. They're not the way that we would naturally respond, because David had encountered an unnatural being. He had encountered a powerful God that transformed his heart. The Spirit of God descended on him and transformed his heart, and he was able to do incredible things, things that we would be afraid to do. So, guys, I hope you dwell on those words this week. I hope you read 1st and 2nd Samuel. Check out the Psalms of David. He wrote about half of them. Psalm 23 was the one we just read. Guys, you're all in my prayers, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.